If you tend to beat yourself up when you make a mistake, keep watching because I'm going to share with you a really, really beautiful lesson in how those mistakes might actually be beautiful lessons at play. So this lesson came on my nomadic travels, except it actually happened at my home base. I was headed to Trader Joe's to get some food for my next trip, and I completely missed the exit. So of course, my old brain pops up, and I'm like, Blair, you're not paying attention. Be mindful, be present. And then I've been really, really working on trust, allowing, receiving, and trusting, really quite consciously since last year when it first started coming up in my automatic writing. And so as soon as the old brain, the blaming brain came online, immediately I thought, this actually is odd. This never has happened before. So maybe this is purposeful. Let's trust. Let's trust in this. I know I can take the next exit. It's fine. And so I go and take the next exit, and I soon realize that path, though it maybe took a few more minutes, was so much more pleasant than the way I'd been going every single time. Now, this happened months ago, and I feel called to share it now because the teachings have been unfolding through that. Even as I just have been filming this, I realized, oh wow, there's another lesson. So I'm going to break it down I'm going to try in the order that it came. So my first realization for me personally was I would much prefer to have something take a little bit longer or as long as it's needed and to have a more pleasant experience. I've had, as I like to say, some dark decades of the soul, and so I would like it to be pleasant if possible. And I definitely don't mind if it takes a little bit longer. And at the same time, I find that I'm constantly rushing. And now, constitutionally, I have a lot of air within me. And astrologically, and I'm a very airy person. And so I tend to move quickly. And so that is a lesson for me. And that is something that I'm working on. But to ground down and knowing that I can take my time and have a really pleasant experience in it felt like such a gift. And if we're thinking about a trip to Trader Joe's, how does that align to the trip in incarnation, to all of our different lives? Would you prefer to maybe be a little bit more of a late bloomer, to have things take a little bit longer in a world of instant gratification? What if things took a little bit longer, but the journey was actually a much more pleasant one? Now, that's not for everyone. Some people are like, I want it fast and dirty. I don't care what it takes. Let's get it done. And that works for a lot of people. That is serving them on their journey. So again, this is just my own musings, what's working for me, but also to present this as an opportunity to be reflective in your own life of what is working, what is aligned, and what isn't. And so again, it just speaks to if you are working towards something and it's taking longer than you thought, what if this is actually the pleasant experience? What if you could actually lean into the idea that this is taking longer than I thought it might, and perhaps that it's purposeful. Perhaps I'm being protected because maybe if I got to where it is that I think I want to be in the time that I thought it would take me, it might actually be really dysregulating, really, really hard. And it might all just blow up in my face because it's not what I needed, right? So what we think we want isn't always what we need. And a message that I've gotten over and over again and truly believe and have had plenty of opportunities to trust in that is that we have what we need when we need it. And trusting in that is powerful, especially if you're working towards acceptance of what is, not trying to make something different, because especially when it's uncomfortable, but to truly just be with it. What is this giving me in this moment? And this whole experience also reinforced a channeling that came through a while back around following the detours, which I will hopefully find and post right there and link in the description. But it was really about accepting when you get a detour in your life, when life throws you a curveball, can we actually ground down into that and believe, maybe, or think, or try to believe that this might be purposeful in some way? And there are so many different experiences that can be thrown our way. Some are much easier to put trust in, right? Like missing an exit, much easier to put trust in that versus the sudden death of someone that you love, right? But if we can use these smaller moments that are easier to put our trust into, that this is purposeful, I don't know why. This is my current experience. I'm going to move through it with trust and acceptance, and I'm going to feel everything that comes up around it, because that's also part of the journey and part of the lesson. It may actually be bringing something up in you that has been unacknowledged and unseen, but you need to bring up those energies, those frequencies through a different outlet, because returning to the actual experience that brought forth those emotions that were not actually digested or experienced when they get stuck and held in the body, because the body keeps score. This may, for some, in some experiences, again, I won't speak to all, is bringing up those frequencies to be seen, to be experienced. So it may seem completely out of left field, and yet if you sit with it, you can actually do a lot of healing without revisiting the old trauma. And maybe in time, with a trained professional, you can then revisit those original wounds, which original, that's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. When did it actually start, right? This could be lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of a frequency that's needing to be moved through, that you're experiencing in many, many different ways through many, many different lessons, many of which seem completely unrelated and yet are of the same frequency. And this is true as well in our lives. We may have so many things come up and they seem completely unrelated. And yet when you actually sit in the frequency of it, disconnecting the thinking mind and the egoic self of labeling it and putting stories and narratives and beliefs around it, but when you were just with the frequency of it, you may recognize that frequency is actually within all of those experiences to help you to be with that experience, to honor that frequency, to connect to that frequency as a means of expansion. So, the next time you're driving, if you drive, you come upon a detour, use it as an opportunity. Can I trust in this? You may never know why, but for me, I've been working with this for a long time actually, and I would sometimes just trust, like when I was living in the city, if I missed the bus or the subway, I've written about this in one of my blogs. I would have some really dark thoughts as to why it was in my best interest not to catch it. I don't necessarily recommend that. And as I mentioned in that blog post, if your mind goes there, you're not alone. But trusting. It's not something that comes necessarily easily for most people, and that's why it's a practice. So practice with these smaller moments. When you send an email and there's a typo, can you sit with that? Can you trust in that? Maybe it's just for you to sit with the energy of not being perfect, however you define that to be. And in time, I'll say it. And in time, recognizing that you are inherently perfect. Your idea of perfection is an idea. And when you actually are with what is. You recognize that you are perfect and everything is perfect exactly as it is. So friends, if you miss the exit, if you have a detour, if you lose the job, you don't get the ticket to the show that you wanted to, your partner leaves you, all of these experiences exist within a spectrum. And not everyone will have the same experience of them. Nor should they. We're all on our own unique journeys. So finding what works for you, what feels accessible, to begin to really, it's like building a muscle, building new neural pathways if you want to connect it to the physical realm. Again, find what works for you. This is just a way that I'm able to speak to it. It may or may not resonate, and that is something to honor. If it doesn't, great, you have information. If it does, great, you have information. So follow the detours, trust in the detours, trust in what is. And when there's resistance to what is, allow that to be an opportunity to be with whatever is present in that resistance. Again, beautiful opportunity to be with what is. The resistance is present. Be with it. Okay, friends, that's it for today. Until next time, stay curious.